What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is what I watched in March of 2023. This is where I give you a basic overview of what I watched in theater, on streaming, and also from my physical media collection here at home that I have seen before that I wanted to revisit. So March was a very stacked month with box office brand new releases, a lot of franchises were coming back, and tons of streaming. So I was very busy in the month of March. So starting off with movie theaters, what did I go and see in theaters? Creed 3 was the first movie I watched, and I was so very excited because I love the Rocky franchise. You know, Sly is my man, and even though Creed 3 does not have Sly in it, and I was kind of hesitant about that, but also Michael B. Jordan directing this latest installment. That made me a little nervous as well. But I am happy to report that he did a fantastic job. Is it a perfect film? No. There's little tweaks I would have made here and there. Some of the boxing sequences, like the final fight and things like that, there's some things I would have changed. But overall, Michael B. Jordan did a fantastic job. He really stepped up to the plate. If anyone is going to direct a Creed film, it should be Michael B. Jordan. He knows this character inside out and sideways. He knows what to do. He knows the world. Jonathan Majors, great villain in this movie. I love their past history. Yes, no Rocky. There's no Sly Stallone in Creed 3. However, I no longer think Sly is necessary going forward with the Creed franchise because we wrapped up his storyline very nicely at the end of Creed 2. He even says at the very end of the movie, "It's yours now, kid." Something to that effect. We closed out Rocky's storyline. He is good. He is reunited with his son and his grandson, and now it's Michael B. Jordan's time to shine. So I feel like it's good. It's all good that Sly was not in Creed 3. And I'm excited if they decide to go forward with future Creed films, where they could possibly go with the franchise. So continuing on with the franchises, we have Scream 6. Now, I was very, very excited, as you guys know, for Scream 6, my most anticipated movie of the entire year. I love and adore the Scream franchise so very much. So whenever there's a brand new Scream movie, I have to go and see it at least 2 times in the theater. And that is what I did for Scream 6. Now, is this a perfect film? God, no. It's not a perfect movie by any means. There's a lot of fault with the writing. However, I will say, when I went to go and see it the second time, I just sat there and I enjoyed it for what it was, sitting in front of me, just really enjoying it, and I had a good time. But if you are going to technically dissect a film, Scream 6 is not the best movie. However, I will say, as far as the gore factor and being in a different environment, we're in New York City, we're not in Woodsboro, things like that, they really stepped up the game. Melissa Barrera is like a brand new actress in this movie. She is way better than she was in Scream 5. Jenna Ortega, really loved her character again. There are a lot of factors I did enjoy about Scream 6, but if there's anything I want to change going forward with the franchise, because we know Scream 7 is coming, the writing. They need to work on the writing. I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm just going to move on to John Wick Chapter 4. I was very excited for the latest John Wick movie. Who isn't excited for a new John Wick film? First of all, this movie, yes, almost a 3-hour runtime. However, you do not feel it at all whatsoever. At least I didn't. Consistent action. Keanu at the top of his game, doing over 90% of his own stunts. I am just so impressed by that. Him and Tom Cruise. Granted, I'm not the biggest Tom Cruise fan, but at least he's committed. They are committed as actors, the roles that they play, to what they are doing. Keanu Reeves is so fantastic with his skills, his action skills. Like, he is just amazing. The cinematography in this movie is beautiful. There's one shot where there's a building and it's outlined in red and there's cherry blossoms. It looks gorgeous. This movie is just nonstop action. You have fun. It's a total popcorn flick. You enjoy what's in front of you and you're just eating everything up that's on the screen. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of scenarios that are completely ridiculous, but We just accept it because we're in John Wick's world. Moving on to streaming. What did I watch in streaming in March? A lot of items came out on streaming, starting off with Triangle of Sadness. I watched this movie because it was nominated for Best Picture this past year. And when it comes to the Oscars and Best Picture nominees, I try to watch as many of them as I can. Now, when I heard Triangle of Sadness was coming to Hulu, I thought perfect opportunity. Also, it is coming out on Criterion later on this month of April, so I figure I'll watch it first on streaming to see if it's worthy of a pickup. No, it's not. I am so happy I streamed this movie first. I just saved myself $30 because I hated this film. It's too long. I didn't see the point of this movie. I thought it was extremely boring. A lot of you, when I put out that I hate this movie video about Triangle of Sadness, I got a lot of comments from one extreme to the other. This is a movie you either love, you understand, you knew where the director was coming from, or you absolutely hated it just like I did. I do not understand why this movie was nominated for Best Picture. I think it should have been The Whale instead, but to each his own. And personally for me, I did not click with Triangle of Sadness. So that's how I started March, watching Triangle of Sadness. Everything else gets better from here. So the next streaming item, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio on Netflix. Again, this was another case of nominated at the Oscars for Best Animated Feature, and I hadn't watched the movie yet. And wow, this film absolutely blew me away. It's not something I'm probably ever going to watch again, but I'm so happy that I watched it, I experienced it. It is an experience. I will say that. It is a movie you have to experience. It's a different take on Pinocchio, just a little bit. There's some changes here and there, but the core story, the basis of Pinocchio is there, and it's just so well done. So if you haven't seen Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio yet on Netflix, I highly recommend that you do, because it was winning Best Animated Feature pretty much at every single award show this past year, and that's why I wanted to see it, and I'm so happy that I did. Moving on to the Chris Rock comedy special on Netflix. So I really wanted to watch this, mainly because I knew Chris Rock was going to address the slap situation, and I wanted to see what he was going to say about the slap, about Will Smith. Now, Chris Rock is a comedian that I always enjoy watching his comedy specials, being hit or not. It doesn't matter. He always cracks me up. But for some reason, I felt with this comedy special, he was a little bit off his game. He wasn't as funny as I know him to be. Now, when it came to talking about the slap, yeah, that part was funny. I was really laughing. Mama Blu-ray and I, we watched it together and we were cracking up. Don't get me wrong, it was a funny special, but it just wasn't, it didn't have the same feeling of a normal Chris Rock special, but I'm happy that I watched it. All right, let's move on to Poker Face on Peacock. So this was a series that I was invested in and I was watching on a weekly basis. Now, normally with shows, I don't like to do week to week. I would rather have it drop all at once and just binge the entire show. So Poker Face, I was invested in because this was a show on Peacock by Rian Johnson, who created Knives Out and directed the unfortunate Last Jedi, I believe, starring Natasha Lyonne. And she plays this character that knows when people are lying. And in every single one of these episodes, it's a murder mystery. And so she's in a different scenario. It's a 10-episode long series. And in every single episode, she's in a different scenario. And she knows who she can decipher who committed the murder or who committed the crime based on who is lying and who is not. I personally love a good murder mystery, so this show was perfect. It's kind of like the younger female version of Columbo for all of you older viewers out there like myself that know who Columbo is. But this is a great show. It's been picked up for a second season, and I'm looking forward to it because I had a great time watching every episode of Poker Face. All right, next up, Women Talking over on Amazon Prime. So this was a movie, again, nominated for Best Picture, but I hadn't seen it yet. Now, the physical copy was released, I think, the week before the Academy Awards, but I didn't want to buy it because I wasn't sure if it's beyond a one-time watch. It seems super, super serious, and when movies are like that, I don't necessarily gravitate towards them too often for a repeat, but I did want to see it. Now, luckily, Amazon Prime put it onto their streaming service for 5 days before the award show. So that was perfect. Great opportunity. I watched Amazon Prime. I watched Women Talking on Amazon Prime, and I'm happy I didn't pick it up on physical, at least not at full price. If I ever do want to pick it up, I'm going to wait for a drastic sale because it's definitely more of a one-time watch. I would watch it again, but it's not one of those movies where I'm like, yeah, Women Talking, I'm in the mood for that one. No, it's not one of those at all. It's very, very super serious about a group of women who live in a colony, kind of like the Amish, but not the Amish. It's a different kind of colony. But there's a lot of attacks, aka sexual assault, on women in the colony, and they're trying to make a choice. Do they stay, do they go, or do they stay and fight back? And it's a group of women trying to decide what they're going to do. Their vote is going to decide the entire population for the women of this colony, what they're going to do. So it's a very serious subject, going back and forth, weighing the pros and the cons, but it's a film I enjoyed, yes. But like I said, very serious topic. Not sure if it's a movie I can watch again anytime soon. So this is why I'm happy they're streaming. Didn't pick it up, and I watched it on streaming, and I'm good. All right, moving on. Next up on the list, because I have my little notes right next to me, or my notes, there we go. We have Somebody I Used to Know on Amazon Prime as well. So this starred Alison Brie. This is kind of like, it's not really a rom-com, but I'll just say it's like a romance movie. So Alison Brie plays this woman that's like an executive producer on a tacky TV show, and she left her former boyfriend to pursue this career in Hollywood. You know, she was like from a smaller town, so she left all that to go into TV. Well, this television show gets canceled, so she goes back home to see her mother, and of course she runs into the boyfriend, the ex-boyfriend that she left everything for. You know, she left the boyfriend for everything, and she runs into him. Are we following? Yeah, it's easy enough. She runs into the ex-boyfriend, and feelings are kind of still there, the connection is still there, and then she comes to find out that he's engaged, and it's a whole gigantic mess. It was very reminiscent of my best friend's wedding, I gotta be honest. Like, she comes to know the fiance, and she tries to ruin things, but doesn't really go as far as Julia Roberts' character in my best friend's wedding. But it's one of those kinds of movies. She runs into the ex-boyfriend, he's engaged, you know, it's like a whole weekend thing. There's nudity, blah, blah, blah. And when I say there's nudity, I'm not kidding. We're talking like full frontal nudity. I mean, it was an okay movie. It's not something I would watch again. I'm happy I watched it, but I'm fine with leaving it in the past. I think I gave it like 3 stars on my Letterboxd. It was okay. It's not great, just all right. Next up on my list is All Quiet on the Western Front on Netflix. Talk about a powerful movie. Now, I mentioned this before in a prior video. The war genre is not at the top of my list. I'm never ruling out war movies, but you gotta be a pretty special movie for me to actually say, wow, I really enjoyed a war film. Now, again, I watched All Quiet on the Western Front because it was nominated for Best Picture. So it was on Netflix, and I said, yes, let's watch this. I watched it, I think, the night before the Oscars. Wow, what a powerful film. Movies like this, movies like All Quiet, 1917, and Saving Private Ryan, which I watched for the very first time, like I think a year ago, are really changing my mind when it comes to the war film genre. So I hate to say I enjoyed All Quiet because it's not an enjoyable movie at all whatsoever. It's horrific. The events in the film are horrible, but drop knowledge on my brain, and I love when movies can do that. It was a beautifully shot film. Cinematography was amazing. The soundtrack, the score, whatever you want to call it, it was awesome. Everything about this film encompassed Best Picture nominee. So I'm very happy that that film got a lot of recognition at the Oscars. It won many awards, and I'm happy that it did because it truly did deserve it. All right, let's move on to a little bit of lighter content. We have Only Murders in the Building. So this was the television show I decided to watch in the month of March. I binged both seasons back to back because I know season 3 is coming out fairly soon. And I know Meryl Streep, I guess, is going to be a part of season 3, and I'm super excited about that. But Only Murders in the Building, this one was so much fun. Like I said with Poker Face, I love a great murder mystery. So Only Murders in the Building is right up my alley. If you haven't seen Only Murders, it's about a gigantic apartment complex, very, very nice in New York City. Your main characters are Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez. And they all love murder podcasts and they bond over this. Then what happens is a murder occurs in their building and they take it upon themselves to try to figure out who committed the murder. And it happens in season 1 and 2, consistent storytelling. Murders happening all over the place in this building, apparently. But so fun, so entertaining. I love Steve Martin and Martin Short together. Like, they've done a few films together. Their chemistry is undeniable, and I just love seeing them. I was laughing hysterically watching this show, especially with Martin Short. So this one was great, and I cannot wait for season 3. It's going to be a lot of fun. And the final item I watched on streaming was Armageddon Time on Peacock. Now, Armageddon Time recently came out on physical media, I would say about maybe 2-3 months ago. And that one I was unsure about, so I wanted to wait for streaming, and I finally got around to watching it. And I'm so happy I streamed it. It's not beyond a one-time watch for me. One and done, that's it. It's a very basic story, coming-of-age film about a young boy growing up, trying to figure out life and where he's going, and he doesn't have like the best home life. I think it takes place in 1980. Anne Hathaway, my favorite, as you guys know, plays his mom. She was actually okay in this movie. She didn't get on my nerves. But the best part about this movie is Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins plays his grandfather. They have such a great chemistry and a dynamic and a great relationship. They're like friends rather than like grandfather and grandson. They're like best friends, best buddies. And it's like a cute movie, I guess, but nothing to write home about. So I'm really happy I just streamed it. So now it's time for me to show you what I watched on physical media, getting ready for other movies coming out, and just movies I wanted to revisit in general. So the majority of these films are the franchise films that I was getting ready for, Creed 3 and Scream 6 and John Wick Chapter 4. So obviously we'll start off with the first Creed. And obviously Creed 2, there we go. Next up is the Scream franchise. So started off with the first Scream movie. Scream 2. I hold up the triple pack for Scream 3 because it's not out on a 4K yet. Hopefully very, very soon. So Scream 3, Scream 4, and Scream 5. Then we got John Wick. I had to watch these ones. I just picked up my John Wick box set, so I had to watch my Blu-ray steelbooks, not the 4K, unfortunately. So John Wick Chapter 2, and John Wick 3 Parabellum. There we go. So now we're getting into movies that I have seen before that are not part of franchises that I want to revisit. A Few Good Men on 4K. This is like one of the best movies ever. I would say I enjoy Tom Cruise in this movie so much. I think it's his best performance. I'll just say that. A Few Good Men is such a good film. All-star cast. If you have not seen A Few Good Men, and this is a great 4K transfer as well, I will say, please pick this up. You need to pick it up. You need to watch it, find it on streaming, whatever you have to do, watch A Few Good Men. It's so good. With a lot of these, I was concentrating on award-winning films because in the month of March, I watched award-winning films or nominees and also Meryl Streep movies. And so A Few Good Men was nominated at the Academy Awards. as was obviously Casablanca because it won Best Picture, and I wanted to watch this 4K transfer for the first time. Very, very nice. And as far as Meryl goes, I love Meryl and It's Complicated. I love her with Steve Martin and Alec Baldwin. This is probably one of my favorite roles of hers because I love Meryl when she can do great comedy. And this movie is fantastic comedy. It really shows her skills in that genre. And I love it. It's one of my favorite films of hers. So It's Complicated. My mom had never seen it, so I really wanted mom to watch it. Then I rewatched The Breakfast Club because, as you guys know, or you may not know, the date of their detention is March, I believe, 24th. And so obviously on March 24th, I had to watch The Breakfast Club. Yes, it's that serious. And finally, I revisited Nomadland. Best Picture winner, I believe, from what? 2020, right? I think. Wow, time is flying by. But wanted to revisit Nomadland because I hadn't seen it since I streamed it on Amazon Prime when it first came out. So this was the first time I watched the Blu-ray that I picked up, and I enjoyed it. Although, does it really hold up as a Best Picture winner all these, a couple years later? I'm not really sure about that. Like, just for that moment, yeah, but everlasting, I'm not really sure. It's a good, solid movie. It is slow. Frances McDormand, I still, I love her, but I still question whether she should have won the Oscar that year. I honestly don't think she should have. But anyway, good, solid movie. I enjoyed revisiting. So that is everything that I watched in the month of March in theater, on streaming, and at home on physical media. What am I watching in the month of April? You're just going to have to wait and see for next month's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe before you leave, and I'll see you next time.